everybody, and welcome back to the Bay Bolts channel. As always, my name is Jake Ricker. Alongside me is my good friend and co-host, Michael Wax. I apologize for the iffy camera quality here in the background, as I am currently in Pennsylvania. But Michael, the Tampa Bay Lightning, for the first time this series, fall to the Montreal Canadiens by a score of 3-2 in overtime, and cannot win the cup in game number 4, and will have to try again on Wednesday in Game 5 back home at Tampa. How you feeling after that loss?
Jake, if you told me that the Lightning at the beginning of the series would have a 3-1 series lead through 4 games, I'd be pretty happy with that. But I will admit this game 4 loss does put a sour taste in my mouth because they had so many opportunities to win it, so many opportunities to win the cup on Montreal's home ice in a sweep for the first time since 1998. And it's unfortunate that they didn't. I thought they played well, but we'll get into how they played as we go through this game.
Couple of pregame notes before we get into the breakdown period by period. Alex Killorn was again out for today's game. He did take pregame warmups, but did not play in the game. That surprised me. I really thought he was going to play today, knowing these guys in a game 4 or a game where they potentially win the Stanley Cup. I would have expected him to play, especially because he was taking warmups, but he did not. So we'll have to wait and see if he's a go for game number 5. It seems like he's really close to being back, which is a good sign for the Lightning. That'll be a huge boost for them if he can come back. Also, I blame this loss mostly on Jane Castor, because if you didn't catch it, a lot of people were having some fun, as Jane Castor said that she kind of wanted the Lightning to lose in game number 4 and let the Lightning win on home ice. Well, she got what she was for. So, but let's get into the game, because that's the more important thing here. So, first period, Michael, the Lightning came out very strong. They played really, really good. I believe the shots through about 10 minutes were 8-1. It was just complete domination by the Lightning. And in that first couple of minutes, you're thinking, well, looks like the Lightning are going to win the Stanley Cup tonight, because that's the way this game is going. But Montreal gets the first goal of the game, and it's Josh Anderson off a breakout by the Canadiens. They have Nick Suzuki behind the net, passes it back in front. Josh Anderson standing right there, puts it back behind Andre Vasilevsky, and the Canadiens have a 1-0 lead heading into the second period.
Yeah, and I think that I summarized this pretty well in the Babel recap that we did on Twitter. They did everything in that first period except for take the lead. They were really, really good in that first period, and it's unfortunate that they lost, but what we say is that good teams take advantage of other teams' mistakes. Montreal saw that Tampa Bay had too many men on the ice during their line change in terms of not, line change and 7 guys are on the ice. No, 6 players were coming onto the ice for the Lightning and they realized it too late. David Savard was basically the only one back on this scenario. I would have liked for him to cut off the pass a little bit better. He did try to dive, but if he cuts it off a little bit better, you're asking Nick Suzuki to take the shot. And Suzuki has a fantastic shot, and he has gotten some very, I'm not going to call them lucky, but some very fortunate goals in this series behind Vasilevsky. So if he shoots the puck, anything can happen. But I have a lot more faith in Andre Vasilevsky stopping a straight up shooter than I do a pass across for a tap in goal. So I thought overall the Lightning played very well. They hit a post in this period that would come back to bite them a lot in this game. But overall, you cannot be mad with how they played in the first period. It does suck that they did not get the lead, though.
The second period, you're down 1-0, still only a 1-0 game. And boy, was this an interesting period, Michael, because I would say from the play wise, it was dominated by the Canadiens. I thought the Canadiens played a very good second period. They outplayed the Lightning. They caught back up in shots. I think they even took the lead at shots at one point. They looked like the better team. But as we saw in the first period, it doesn't really matter who's the better team, because all that matters is when the puck goes in the back of the net. And the Tampa Bay Lightning would get themselves on the board as Barclay Goodrow puts one in the back of the net, and ties this game at 1. So all of a sudden, you have a tie 1-1 game heading into the third period in the final 20 minutes. Both teams have played a good period, but both teams got scored on when they were quote unquote the better team. So good job by the Lightning, despite not playing a great second period, capitalizing on their opportunity and tying this game at 1 heading into the final 20.
Yeah, the Canadians were the better team, and the Lightning ended up tying the game. So is hockey. We'll see that later in this game as well, that the better team does not always win the game. What a play by Ryan McDonagh. Blake Coleman had a great keep in at the blue line, got a shot on net, and then McDonagh has the wherewithal to realize that, hey, maybe another shot on net would get saved by Carey Price, but I've got a wide open Barclay Goodrow behind me, and he's got a wide open net to stare at because I'm dragging Carey Price to the other side with my puck skills and my vision. Ultimately, the Lightning probably should have played a little bit better in that period. They hit another post, which, I mean, come on.
Which wouldn't end either for the
No,
Bulls.
it wouldn't. It would get more ridiculous. But they would hit another post, and I don't know. Like, they didn't play very well, but they tied the game, and so I'm going into this third period thinking, they don't have to play that well in order to take the lead if this game is what I think it is. And then we'll get to why I think the third line got kind of screwed over in the third period. But when they're on the ice, they are by far Tampa's best line at generating chances because all three of them right now are healthy in quotations. Point is hurt. We saw that in this period, I believe. Kucherov is definitely playing through an injury, and Andre Palat is the third man on that line. He's playing really well, but he's the third man on that line. All three of them on the third line play complementary. They play really well with each other. But again, it was something that happened with them in the third that is probably going to be more of a headline grabber.
Right. So going into the third period, let's talk about that third period. I thought both teams played their best. Well, not best, but the Lightning played good in the first. The Canadiens played good in the second. I thought both teams had good chances heading into the third period. So lots were going on in this period. There was a lot of back and forth in this one. The Canadiens are the ones who would ultimately break through first and take a 2-1 lead off a crazy rush there. It was Romanov who scored the goal for the Canadiens, his first of the postseason. And the Canadiens now all of a sudden have a 2-1 lead, and time is quickly ticking down on the Bolts. There was a situation here too where there was a scrum in this period. Uh, Lots going on. Coleman had his helmet ripped off, which is supposed to be an automatic penalty, but the refs, in the third period of a potential Stanley Cup final clinching game, they're going to put their whistles away, which I believe is why this was not called. They got put in the box. They were all matching minors. There was three guys, basically the entire line for the Bolts, and then because they were matching minors, they don't come out of the box until next whistle goes. And there was a very long period of time where there was no whistle. So basically, both teams were playing without three of their guys. Montreal was down like three defensemen. The Lightning were down their whole forward line for a large portion of this third period, which was kind of crazy. But it was the fourth line that came through for the Lightning in this game. None other than Matthew Joseph and Pat Maroon, who knows how to win Stanley Cups. There's no question about that. Matthew Joseph makes a beautiful pass across to Maroon. Maroon puts it in the back of the net, and the Lightning have tied this game at 2. And you're thinking, all right, let's get here, finish this game strong, maybe go into overtime, win the game. As this period goes on, though, gets closer and closer ending. Then Kucherov hits a post. This was the third post of the game. It was a wide open net. Kucherov, I think it just hit the top of his stick, just barely misses it, and it hits the post and stays out. That was an unfortunate break for the Lightning. And then the craziest part of all this third period is Andre Palat gets high sticked right in the face, right off a face-off circle by Shea Weber. And originally, I almost lost it here, Michael, because NBC, who's terrible at their coverage, I won't get into it, but they said there wasn't going to be a penalty. So I almost lost it, but they did call a penalty because you can't miss something like that. Palat was bleeding from the nose. It was clear as day. So Lightning get a 4-minute power play, and about a minute 20 of this is going to happen in the third period. The rest would carry into overtime. The Lightning power play was not great in this game. They did not score once on the power play. Point did hit that crossbar early in the game, but no success. And some of that goes to Montreal. Credit to them because they have a very good penalty kill. But the Lightning's power play did struggle, which was an issue for them. So you're hoping, all right, let's score on this, end it quick. They can't do that, so we're tied at 2, going into overtime with about a 3-minute power play still left to go. So a crazy third period, Michael.
Yeah, I'll get to my anger about the power play a little bit later when we talk about the OT. Ultimately, when Pat Maroon scored, I really thought this game was over because Pat Maroon, like you mentioned, is a guy that's versed in winning Stanley Cups. And he's a guy that brings a ton of leadership to this Lightning forward core. By the way, Matthew Joseph, fantastic in this game. He did not play a ton, but he was really, really good. He was generating chances. Him and Tyler Johnson were easily the best part of the I'll call the bottom six, the Stamkos line and the fourth line, because ultimately I think the Gord line is becoming the second line for the Lightning in these playoffs. And they were the best part of that line. Tyler Johnson played just over 10 minutes. Matthew Joseph played just over 8. And I thought they were fantastic for that bottom pair or bottom six. And Pat Maroon is the recipient of a beautiful passing play from the two of them. The Romanov goal, I'm gonna be very, very honest with you. I'm very upset, and take this with a grain of salt. I'm a Lightning fan. I understand the penalties were 5-1 in favor of the Lightning. They had opportunities to win on the power play. They didn't. However, when you commit an automatic penalty, you should be penalized. That goes for tripping, where Victor Hedman tripped Corey Perry last game and they didn't call it. That goes for interference when I believe it was Ben Sherratt is mauling Tyler Johnson multiple times on a breakaway and it's not called. That goes for when Jake Evans is holding Braden Point's arm against the boards, where Shea Weber has a dangerous predatory hit in front of him. Thank God Braden Point got out of the way. And that goes for removing helmets. That's not me. That's the rule book. That is in the rule book. You say, okay, this is a call that we have to make. And ultimately, they decide, no, we're going to put 3 people in the box for each side. I don't care that Montreal had 4 defensemen on the ice and we're down a forward. You put an entire forward line out there for Montreal, or you put an entire forward line out there against the Lightning. You put them all in the box. It's going to come back to bite the Lightning because that was one of their better forward lines. I don't get it. Like, there was a scrum at the end of the second period where, Sorelli was punched in the face, and nothing was called, and he was harassed. And then there was the Andre Vasilevsky punching Corey Perry, which, I personally enjoyed that, but ultimately that might be a penalty as well. Like, what do
Probably.
we do? What are we doing here? What are
Uh,
we doing here? Gary Bettman said during the Sportsnet intermission, this is uh, the referees, they're doing a great job. They're doing the best job that they can. And the Department of Player Safety is doing the best job that they can, and they're consistent. No, they're consistently bad. They're not good, both of them, but specifically the refs. Again, the Lightning had the majority of the power plays. I'm not saying that the referees were biased towards the Lightning or biased against the Lightning. I just think that they suck. Okay. I think they need to do a better job.
well, and it's the classic, the meme people send around during the playoffs is the rule book gets smaller and smaller as you get deeper into the playoffs into overtime.
It
That's
shouldn't.
I know, but that's what it is. And Vegas and Montreal fans know this as well. I mean, they won't call something unless it's really blatant, unless it's Corey Perry getting high sticked in the face by Vegas. That they won't call. But it's unless it is so blatantly obvious, they will not call. And you saw Coleman looking right at the referee. He's like, I don't have a helmet on. He ripped my helmet off. That's a penalty. Coleman tried, but the referee, they just don't want to be the ones that end the game, especially in a Stanley Cup clinching scenario. Whether it's right or wrong, I think it's wrong, but that's the way it is. And well, like you mentioned, though, the Lightning had opportunities to end this game on the power play. So let's talk about overtime. Lightning have not won a single game in overtime so far this season. Montreal, I believe, was near perfect, if I'm not mistaken, in overtime. So, two very different teams when it comes to the extra time. Lightning started things off on the power play, and it did not get off to a good start. The power play, like the first power play was very bad. The second one looked a lot better, but they could never get one in the back of the net. This one looked more like the first period, I thought, that power play. They couldn't get much going. They had a couple of shots late. There was one chance where Palat had a shot high, and then there was a rebound for Point that was close. Carey Price made some good saves, though. Montreal then got an odd man rush, but Vasilevsky comes up with a huge save to keep this game alive. Then that power play does eventually end. The Lightning cannot capitalize. Montreal ends up with yet another odd man rush, and then kind of a crazy play where Montreal's players are able to stop right in front of the net. Um, and the basically both Lightning defensemen kind of fall and slip and keep going. They can't stop right away. And it's Josh Anderson, who has dealt with the Lightning before, who's left alone in front of the net. He comes back, excuse me, and throws one into the back of the net. Andre Vasilevsky just can't get to it. And the Montreal Canadiens live to see another day as they win game number 4 and win this one 3-2 in overtime. So the Tampa Bay Lightning will have to go back to Tampa Bay in game number 5 and have another shot at winning the Stanley Cup. But it's a frustrating loss, I think, for Tampa fans. Even though you're up 3-0, so Montreal still has to win 3 in a row, which is very, very tough to do. But this is a little momentum building for Montreal. It's a big win, and when you were that close, it's always frustrating. Michael, I know you talk about these stats all the time, but the Lightning are undefeated after a loss. So that's the silver lining, I think, for Bolts fans is that this team knows how to win after they lose. They know how to respond, and especially these last 2 postseasons. Andre Vasilevsky is like a 1.3 goals against average, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. Stellar. They're stellar stats, and they are really good after a postseason. And it is an added bonus if they are able to close it out that it could be in Tampa Bay in front of our fans. So there's the silver lining if you're looking for one after this game, but a tough loss, Michael.
Yeah, so just overtime in general, Lightning played well, but also like didn't play well. It was very weird. Like their power play was terrible, but also they played pretty well in that 5-on-5 before Josh Anderson scored. I don't know what Yanni Gordon, Ryan McDonough were doing on that last play. They were kind of just standing still, both around Cole Caulfield. Cole Caulfield's a very dangerous player, guys. You don't need to block him with 2 different people. And Josh Anderson was alone, and Vasilevsky could only do so much in this game. Uh, Vasilevsky was overall kind of shaky. I don't expect that to continue in game 5 because he's Andre Vasilevsky, but you were wondering about those stats. And, again, if these numbers are wrong, I apologize. I crunched these numbers myself. Tampa Bay Lightning, after a loss the last 2 postseasons, 13-0 with a 3.85 goals for per game and a 1.46 goals against per game. Andre Vasilevsky after a loss, last 2 postseasons, 13-0, a 949 save percentage, and a 1.3 goals against average. You know the deal. Do it one more time. Cement your legacy. This is your legacy. Your legacy is not any of the terrible, terrible memes that we've seen about the Lightning spending over the cap and Kucherov. your legacy, when all is said and done, people will look back on this team and say, wow, what a group of responders. They knew how to win after they lost. And Ryan McDonough said it after the game. He said, borrowed the old quote from Moneyball. He said, I love to win, but I hate to lose more. They hate to lose. And you've seen that over the past two postseasons. Everyone thought they played well in the Lightning. There's no disputing that. I think they were the better team overall. But ultimately, they have had games in these playoffs where they're not the better team and they've pulled out victories. Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals, they were not the better team and they won the game. If you swap those games, hey, it's still a 3-1 series. There's a lot to be happy with. All they need is one more.
And it's funny. It kind of feels like Game 6 of the New York Islanders series, where you went into overtime, you were hoping for something, but then Islanders end it, and then the Lightning, after a loss, just dominate in game number 7. We hope that is the case again in game number 5. It also keeps Andre Vasilevsky's series clinching shutout streak alive and has another shot to do that. So, knock on wood, though, we don't know. You never know. This is not over until the clock hits zeros at Jane Castor. But I'll stop doing that. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for us in today's video. So game number 5 is going to be on Wednesday at 8 p.m. on NBC. Unfortunately, they get one more game in Tampa Bay. So looking forward to it. Hopefully Killorn will be a go. Be sure to follow us at Bay_Bolts on Twitter so you get those updates and know as soon as we know if Killorn is good to go. I would expect him to be, but then again, I expect him to be good to go for game number 4. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video if you did enjoy it. It really helps us out. Let us know in the comments down below what you thought about this game and how you're feeling about a potential win at home in game number 5. But hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember, your Tampa Bay Lightning are still only one game away from becoming back-to-back Stanley Cup champions.
Go Bolts.